Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us at this press briefing by Ambassador Jürg Lauber, the President of the Human Rights Council. Ambassador Lauber is in New York following the 60th session of the Human Rights Council. We will begin with a few remarks from Ambassador Lauber and then open up for questions. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you much, Louise. Thank you, everybody who is here or tuning in over the internet. Good afternoon, and I also want to start traditionally by thanking you for your interest, for the work you're doing, for the interest in multilateral diplomacy, and in particular in human rights. Your work is essential for us to carry the message about the importance of human rights out to the world. Colleagues, as the UN marks its 80th year, let's recall that human rights remain one of its three founding pillars. Across 8 decades, the UN has helped build the international human rights framework and institutional architecture, from the Universal Declaration on Human Rights to the many treaties and mechanisms that continue to guide the protection of people everywhere. Today, human rights work extends to every continent, helping governments strengthen laws, institutions, and accountability. The Human Rights Council in Geneva is a central part of that effort. It provides a place where member states, civil society organizations, and other actors, often with very different views, can come together, discuss, and take action. In a divided world, the ability to keep dialogue alive is an achievement in itself. At its 60th session, concluded earlier this month, the Council adopted 35 resolutions, including those establishing a new investigative mechanism on Afghanistan, merging the mandates of the special rapporteurs on slavery and human trafficking, and taking steps to strengthen the Council's efficiency under resource constraints. The Council renewed a number of country and thematic mandates on Sudan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and the Russian Federation, while bringing others to conclusion, such as those on Somalia and the DRC. It also postponed the adoption of Nicaragua's UPR outcome while inviting continued engagement. On thematic issues, the Council continued its work on health, water and sanitation, climate change, the rights of indigenous peoples, and many other themes. Despite reduced meeting time and resources, the Council completed its planned work, including 9 general debates, 41 dialogues, and the Universal Periodic Review on 14 countries. I thank all delegations, experts, and staff who helped make this possible. The challenge now is to ensure that the Council can sustain this work as it enters its 20th year in 2026. The budgetary outlook may be difficult, but the commitment of Member States to dialogue, cooperation, and accountability remains strong. Let me conclude by saying that it has been a great honor to serve as President of the Human Rights Council during 2025.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Lauber. Are there any questions in the room? Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this briefing on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association. Thank you. What would you say? A lot is being said about the situation of human rights all over the world right now. What would you say is the single most threatening or the single biggest threat facing human rights today? And could you just also elaborate a bit on, other than the budget, what does that entail? Where are we at now budget-wise? And what does it say about member states' commitment to human rights?
Yeah, thank you so much. The two questions are related, of course. During the 3 sessions I had now the privilege to preside over as a president, I heard many reports from individuals, from groups coming to Geneva, sharing their testimony. And I have to say I have to tell you, many times I felt discouraged and almost depressed to hear that testimony, to see in how many places all over the world human rights are violated. And at the same time, what I found encouraging is that they come to Geneva, they recognize the Council as a place where they can be heard and where there is a hope for them to be recognized and to receive support and help. So the single biggest threat for me is disengagement. If states, and we have some examples, disengage in the work of the Council, disregard the importance of human rights in relation also to peace and security and development, and turn away, that is for me, it's not a specific country, but that's for me the single threat. And that finds an expression in the budgetary constraints we have. It's not the only reason, but it's among them. Specifically what it means is what we already saw this year, we had to, and I mentioned it, we had to cut down speaking time in the Council for delegations. That seems like a little thing, in particular if you put it in direct relation to suffering of people on the ground. But multilateral diplomacy is about meeting and having sufficient time to make your case and exchanging. So it's not that little after all. The other consequence we saw, and we see increasingly, is decisions taken by the Council not being implemented because the money is missing. I give you one particular example. We had the special session upon request of the Democratic Republic of the Congo concerning the human rights situation in Eastern Congo in February, where it was decided, among other things, to establish a commission of inquiry. I recently was able to nominate the 3 experts, but we are still waiting to have money for the commission to start. That's 2 problems. One, we really need to look into the human rights situation on the ground to see what we can do to support the people who suffer from human rights violations. And other, it's of course not good for the reputation and legitimacy of the Council if we take decisions and then they're not being implemented. So we have to do 2 things, I think we have as a Council, and we will continue doing that. Look at how we can become more efficient, how we can rationalize our work, but we still need to make sure that we get the minimum funding necessary for the Council to fulfill its mandate. Sorry, it's a long answer to a short question, but you see, you hit it right away.
Any other questions in the room? Please go ahead. Yes, please.
Thank you. As President of the Human Rights Council, what do you have to say about the politicization of the issue of human rights? Because, for example, the Americans would say there was a genocide in China's Xinjiang region, and at the same time, they provide weapons to kill people in Gaza. So, what do you have to say?
It's a criticism I hear a lot. I also heard it this morning when I was following the debate in the General Assembly, that the Human Rights Council is politicized. That in the end, the Human Rights Council is a political body where we debate very sensitive issues, be thematic, the impact, for instance, of climate change on human rights, or specific, the situation in certain countries. Rarely all the countries who participate in debate agree. There's political arguments, differences, positioning, alliance making. So the fundamentally political nature of the debate is a fact in the Human Rights Council as much as it is in the ECOSOC or the Security Council here. So I think that's just what's the nature of a body like that.
Do you mean that you cannot do anything to bring this human rights issue back to the normal track, like people would be talking about this issue in an objective, at least, manner? I mean, less politics, more substance.
I understand your question, but I'm afraid objectivity is in the eye of the beholder, as they say. I also feel if you look behind the noise of the debate in the room, and I don't mean to be derogatory, I feel these debates are important, and to be there and even be controversial and be for and against and have an open, sometimes quite feisty debate about it. But if you look at the end of the day what the Council is able to do, how often the Council is able to make its decision by consensus and come together in the substance and then have a positive impact still on human rights, I'm still quite positive on the track record of the Council.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm taking advantage. One of your special rapporteurs, when she was Francesca Albanese, when she was asked about where international law lies today, after we have seen it in the past few years being, disrespected, disregarded in so many places, she said it is now. International law is the language of the masses right now, and it's the masses who are upholding these values, as opposed to governments who are not hiding anymore their disrespect for these laws and conventions. And I wonder if you see eye to eye with that comment about where international law, human rights law, all the pillars of our modern world lie right now in the face of all these violations that we are witnessing. And what do you think also of the second question? Many people describe the crisis in Gaza as the last nail in the coffin of international law and the human rights system. And I wonder, what's your assessment of the damage that has been inflicted because of Gaza on human rights in general? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I honestly feel that international law, and in this case in particular human rights law, but also on national level, law is being probably more violated, disrespected these days than it has at some point in the past, and this is very concerning. We talked before about what's the biggest risk: disengagement from institutions, disregard from rules, disrespect for rules, trying not to be accountable for violations of law, trying to play more the power game of power politics. These are all tendencies that I find concerning. At the same time, if you listen to the debates, for instance, in the Human Rights Council, you still feel that there is a high number of countries who recognize the power of law, the need for international rules, including human rights rules, to put limits to power. So I belong to those, and I'm, as a Swiss ambassador, I'm lucky that I can represent the country that belongs to those who defend those rules, the limits to power, and we just we need to continue. We cannot, because it's more difficult, because there are more obstacles, because the number of countries or governments who seem willing to go beyond or to disrespect those laws, that we can't stop the struggle. And always remember, and that makes the link to what you said about it lies with the masses. I think we always have to remember that our responsibility truly is to the people. I've always said that the Charter, fundamental documents like the UN Charter, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, are promises that we made to the people, and in human rights in particular, it's about the rights holders ultimately. You know, I don't want to single out any specific situation. You know, right now, for instance, we are very concerned about the situation also in Sudan, in al-Bashir, what's happening there. There's a number of situations around the world where people are suffering from dramatic human rights violations, and we need to try to look into all of them.
Are there any other questions in the room? We don't have any questions online, so with that we will end the briefing. Thank you, Ambassador Lauber, for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time, and thanks for your questions. Thank you.